What's going on, everybody? My name's Stephen Coons, and welcome to the Pursue Healthy Performance podcast. I am the CEO and founder of Pursue Healthy Performance. If you guys don't know who we are, we're a premium online fitness coaching brand. We also coach in person in Gilbert, Arizona, mostly online though, all over America and actually outside the US too. So that is what we do, and this is who I am. But today I want to talk to you guys, and I hope this episode really hits home, because something that I see as a coach, and I'm going to first, let me just get this out there. I am guilty of this. I am somebody that lived a long time, a very long time doing this. So, when I come at you guys, it is from personal experience and because I've coached hundreds, if not thousands of people for a long time, and I've seen the construct of human beings. And what it is like, you guys in general, just people in general, we have to stop making freaking excuses. Like, we make the stupidest excuses. Like, we would, it's almost solely, well, actually there's two subjects, money and fitness. Those are the two things people make the dumbest excuses about, right? Let me just give you a money example. I won't even dive into fitness. And then you guys will see how dumb this is, and people, you'll resonate with it, okay? So people will say, I can't afford something, which means that I would look and think like, you don't have the money. Okay. Or it can also mean that you can't justify spending this. So they'll say, I can't afford those clothes, but then they'll go spend that money at a bar. Oh, I can't make more money per hour. I'm stuck here. No, you're not. You can go get a new job. No, I can't. I see all these like money mindset issues with people. Like, why do the poor stay poor? Because they don't know how to manage their money. It's not just the amount of money they make. Like, the poor people too, in general, whether, I don't care what race you are, white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, doesn't matter. We see, and there's been studies that the poor actually spend more money on like fancy things like Jordans, Mercedes, all these different items, because they don't have money, so they want to exude it. And I went to a school that was a melting pot of different people, and the ones that came from like more poverty families, because I knew some of them, I'm friends with some of them, they had like the freshest clothes all the time. I'm like, how do you afford that? Like fresh Jordans, like chains, like things, like really nice clothes back in, 2009 when I graduated, like whatever was in, they had like the iPods, they had everything. I'm like, how? They live in like a crummy apartment. And the thing too is like, they spend all their money on looking wealthy instead of being wealthy, right? So that's a money mindset issue that you can't really argue that's the facts in America and probably outside of America. So we know that people make excuses when they're not really valid. And it's the same thing with fitness. People will say, I don't have time to work out, yet you'll watch 3 hours of Netflix at night. I don't have money to spend on a trainer, yet if I added up all the dinners you did and all the alcohol that you consumed, and I'm not talking about just the beer at the store, right? Because that's actually probably pretty affordable. I'm talking about you went out on a date night and you spent like, $50 at dinner, and then you got drinks and you did that. It's $100. And you're doing that every week. That's $400 a month. Oh, and you bought this truck part or this gun part. Like, how much money do you really spend? Right. And I'm talking to, if you're middle class or upper middle class, I'm talking to you, because those are the people I hear it from a lot. And I'm in a business position where I hear a lot of people say, I can't afford it. I can't afford the program. I can't do this. Yet, if I were to be a fly on the wall, I would like to see what they spend their money on. I'd like to see their bank account, because you can afford it. You can make room. You could cut back, but you don't want to. And so you keep making these excuses for yourself. Like, hey, you know what? Like, I can't afford it. And if you say that, then people just have to be like, oh, okay, they can't afford it, right? Or the time thing. Oh, damn, don't even get me started on that. How many times have you told yourself that you don't have time? Or another way of saying that is, I'm really busy. I'm busy all the time. And that's my guilt. I'll tell you right now, that is my biggest downfall. My son will be like, hang out with me. I'm like, I'm really busy. I'll admit it. Sometimes I am legitimately busy. Is it an excuse? It is, because I could better prioritize time to hang out with my son sometimes, and that's a downfall of mine. So we all make excuses, okay? We're all full of crap at some point, but there's also a point where you have to stop. Like, are you going to live your whole life not doing things you should do because you're really good at making excuses? And the thing too is, and this is the hard thing, you'll probably hang around friends that also make excuses, and you get something called confirmation bias, right? Where basically, if you're overweight and you hang out with your friends and they're overweight, and you tell your friend, I'm too busy to work out. I'm too busy to go to the gym. They're like, yeah, me too. Now they just made you feel comfortable. You're like, I'm not the only one. And so you hang around people that don't challenge you, that don't make you feel like you need to grow. They're just people that make you feel like, hey, I'm right. I am too busy to work out. I am too tired when I get home. Whoop-de freaking do. So is everybody else. You think that, and we train a lot of medical professionals, first responders. You don't think those people after working 12 hours are tired? I have a client that's a nurse that works 12, 14 hours, gets home and works out. That sucks. I mean, nobody want to do that, but he does. I have another client that's a PhD student and he works as a psychologist and he gets barely any sleep some nights, but he works out 5 or 6 days a week and he's super dedicated and super compliant on his program. He could make so many excuses for himself. I'm a PhD student. I'm busy. I'm in class. I'm starting a business. I have clients. I'm getting 6 hours of sleep. I need my sleep. I don't have the money. The list goes on. But you can play that victim ass mentality all the time, which you probably have been doing, but do you want to continue it? Because guess what's happening to this client specifically? He's getting in shape, the best shape of his life. So nobody really cares about your excuses. That's the truth. The only person that really cares what you have to say is you. Like if you go to work and your boss said, let's say it's the 25th, and he's like, on the 1st, there's a deadline and it needs to be done. We're having a huge presentation. Do you think on the 1st, if you did not have that deadline done, no matter what you told your boss, he probably did not really give a crap. Like he probably is not going to care. You could, I got sick, my kids. But when you come to the meeting empty handed and there's board members there and you don't have anything, he doesn't care. He gives no, you know what about your excuses. Like he doesn't care at all. There's nothing about him. Like he might, if you're like, well, my grandpa died, right? That's an extreme example, but he might have empathy, but at the same time, you didn't get it done. Right? Especially if you didn't tell him and you're like, all these excuses, right? He's like, I understand this happened, totally get it. But the ultimate thing is you weren't ready, man, and you're fired. Right? So the whole point is nobody cares about your excuses. Your excuses literally don't matter because they're not getting you the results. And an excuse is this, and this is really important. I had to tell myself this. An excuse is personal validation that it's okay when it's not. Let me say that again. An excuse is like an external thing. I'm like, it was because of this, to internally validate an excuse that really doesn't even exist, right? And we say these things because when we say it, we're hoping that people will be like, oh, I totally understand. And we're hoping your inner brain, because you have conversations with yourself. You have multiple like people in your head, not to sound like a crazy person, but you got like the one that wants you to do really well and it's motivational and the one that's negative. We all have that, right? So we say that way we can have a conversation in our brains to accept the lie or the excuse we're making up. And if it's a good enough one, we agree with ourselves and we let ourselves go. It's freaking crazy, right? We do. We're like, yeah, Stefan, I know you're going to work out, but like you were busy. And then I'm like, was I? And then I'm like, yeah, no, like legitimately you were busy. That did happen. Okay. So you're not going to beat yourself up this time? No, like I was actually busy. Like those are the conversations I have, right? And so I'm like, if it's a good enough excuse, if I'm good enough at tricking myself, I could like talk myself out of not feeling guilty and not feeling like crap. You understand that? But the thing is, and sometimes it's legitimate. Let's say I was going to go to the gym and a car hit me and I got in a flip over accident. I ain't going to feel guilty about that. That's a legitimate excuse. But guess what? Did I still miss the gym? I did. So does it actually matter? I mean, a car accident's a very extreme example, but does it actually matter? I got a flat tire, okay? And I couldn't go. I had to pick up my kid. I literally couldn't go. The flat tire is nobody's fault. But does it matter? Because I got the flat tire, like I still didn't go to the gym. I still didn't get the workout done. So my body's like, I don't care what you did. You still didn't do it. And that's the whole point. Excuses have no actual like validation or meaning to them. We just give purpose. And if we can get somebody else to give purpose to our excuse or to validate our excuse, that's what we want. Because that's like a double win. Then we're not going to feel guilty at all. You see how we do this? You see how we like negotiate with ourselves in our heads all the time? Aren't you sick of it? Aren't you sick and tired of it? And I always say this statement, and it maybe is a bit intrusive, but I always say gun to the head, because I'm like, you had a gun to your head. You had to be honest with yourself. Are your excuses really valid? Right? Life or death? Because then we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's a really hard thing to do. And I talk about this subject a lot because I think that is the key to success, when you can be super brutally honest. So my suggestion for you, and I'm going to tell you really quick on how I stopped making excuses. Once, and you might still be making them, and it's okay. What I did is I'm like, you know what? Let's say I made an excuse. Let's say, I'll give you an example before for my son. He's like, hey, are you going to play with me? Right? And I'm like, yeah, I'll play with you. I'm off at 6. And I get it. Something happens at work, being a small business owner, and I'm not off at 6 o'clock. And he's like, are you gonna play with me? I'm like, well, this thing happened and blah, blah, blah. And I made the excuse. Okay. He doesn't care. His feelings are hurt. I didn't keep my promise, whatever. Right. So, it doesn't matter. Even though my excuse might've been legitimate, like, oh, this client was going to cancel, or like something happened. And in my head, I'm validating. I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, all this stuff happens. And my son might even be like, oh no, I get it, Dad. But like, does it make a difference? He still got neglected or whatever. He still didn't get time spent with him. So like, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the excuse was. So if you do that, it's okay. We make mistakes. And then I'm like, I literally have to have a sit down conversation with myself. Sometimes I'll journal, and I go through the process, and I have to be very, very honest with myself. And I'm like, all right, was this a legitimate excuse? Okay. And then what you're going to do at first, this is hard. Automatically, you're going to defend yourself against yourself. You will. You'll be like, no, that was like, right? Because you don't want to feel bad. Your body's trying to protect you. Your mind's trying to protect yourself. So you're not going to make yourself feel like crap. So then I'm like, okay, it was a legitimate excuse. You did get that. If that would have happened, if that person would have canceled, if you didn't take the call, what is the worst that could happen? What is the absolute worst that could happen? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't get the sale. The person would have been a little upset. I'm like, okay, it's not good. And then I asked myself, is your son loving you and your son having time with you, is that less important? And then I'm like, oh, damn, no, it's not. My son does come first. He's 12. He's not going to be, in the house probably that much longer. And like, I have the rest of my life to work, and, I don't want him to think that I'm putting business before himself. And damn, I guess that was like kind of actually not a great excuse. But at the time, I told myself it was the best excuse. And I had to go apologize to him and tell him, like, I need to be better about that and make a conscious effort. So next time I'm like, I do have this, but like, it needs to wait. And I get better and I get better. But it takes a couple things. It takes me being super brutally honest. If I make a mistake and I make an excuse, quote unquote, and I kind of mess up, I also have to go back and reevaluate with complete honesty and have that conversation with myself. And it takes time. But now I call myself out on everything, and I actually make a lot less excuses before it even happens, because I'm like, no, that's a BS excuse, Stephen. Don't say that. That ain't true. That's not that ain't gonna fly with yourself. Literally, like, we're crazy people. And it sounds crazy. We have conversations in our head with ourselves. You need to get better at that. So if you miss the gym, if you're overeating, or if you say, I'm not going to drink this weekend, you keep drinking. Oh, but my friends told me to go out. Oh, but it's this person's birthday. Oh, but it's this birthday party. Oh, but I have this. Yeah, but you always are going to have something. When are you going to be like, no? When are you actually just going to actually follow through? When are you going to stop making freaking excuses? When are you going to have enough willpower and grit to say no when you're tempted? Is that ever going to happen for you? Or are you going to be weak your entire life? Are you going to freaking give in to every single thing and tell yourself it's okay? Oh, because their birthday. Oh, well, I was going to eat healthy, but then they had the barbecue. I had to go. I had to show I was a good friend. Like, you've been living your entire life like this. That's why you're overweight. That's why you're out of shape. That's why you are not in the financial situation. That's why you might have a bad relationship with the person you want. I'm going to keep spending time with them. We're going to go to marriage counseling. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I promise things will get better. Oh, but excuse. Oh, it costs a lot. Oh, I don't have time. Excuse. Nobody cares about your excuses. The world, and when I say nobody, I mean the universe. Because all the universe cares about is what happened or what did not happen. That's it. Black or white, yes or no. It doesn't matter if you had good intentions. Did it happen? Yes or no? You need to have that conversation with yourself. And you need to realize that that's all that matters. Marriages are lost. Faith is lost. People have heart attacks or get overweight or have all these health issues because they get so good at making excuses. And I've suffered. I personally suffered for making excuses for myself for a long time. And there's a lot of mistakes I've made in my past. And you know what? It wasn't just like one thing. That's the funny thing, like it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't like, oh, murder. Like, oh, I did one thing bad, really bad one time. It's not that, it's actually the excuses is like the creepy, and I talked about this on an episode with a guest, excuses are like this, they're secret, right? They're like so small, you don't even notice it because you do them all the time. And then they build up and they add up. And it's hard for me because I look at all the mistakes I made in the past or the things I wish I would have done. Like you guys, it might be fitness related. Like, man, I can't get on this fitness program, or I can't do this, or my knee hurts, so I can't exercise, when you have the whole rest of your body. Or you could get a trainer that knows what they're doing and work around your injury, but you keep saying, no, it's because I have a bad knee. Excuse me. I have a bad back. I have all this stuff, so I can't do it. Well, you've told yourself like the excuse for so long. And my biggest fear is this. Listen up, really, really close. My biggest fear for you is that you're going to tell yourself the same excuse so often that you'll end up believing your own lie. That's my biggest fear. That's a scary spot to be in. And you've heard the term, like, they're obsessive compulsive liar, right? Like they lie so much they believe their own lies. You do the same thing to yourself. And I actually know somebody like that in my personal life. Like they lie so much that I think they've legitimately bought in to the lies that they say out loud to other people and to themselves. But you're no better. I mean, are you? Don't you tell yourself excuses, the same excuses over and over again so freaking often that you actually believe it? You actually believe it. You actually believe you don't have time. You actually believe you don't have money. You actually believe that because you have a hurt shoulder or your hurt knee, you can't work out at all. You actually believe that it's, this person's fault or that person's fault. At some point, you're going to have to deconstruct those beliefs. You're going to have to rip them down, or you will never change and you're never going to grow. It's hard. It's very, very hard. But excuses won't get you anywhere because you're still not going to get what you want. You're still not going to get that end goal if you live and rely on excuses. Man, I know this is a little more intense, but this has been on my mind a lot. And this is the conversation. Literally what I just said to you guys is like the conversation I had to have with myself in my head. That's why I'm saying it to you. Like I had this conversation with myself. It's really hard. I even had like tears thinking about like why I just like keep making excuses and excuses and excuses. And I'm not perfect. There's areas of my life that I am constantly working on literally every day, and I fall short. I am not a perfect person. I've got the fitness thing down really well. I'm getting the business thing down. There's areas I could work on for sure in my life. And so don't think this is like me yelling at you guys, telling you that you're lazy and stuff. That's not what it is. I just want to help you. And I hope that this makes you think. I hope when you're done listening to this podcast, that you're like, damn, man, like, I need to really do some self-assessment. He's right, man. I do make a lot of excuses. This is something I really need to work on. And I'm actually going to take action. I'm going to take action. So my last action step I want to give you guys is this. Set a timer for 20 minutes. You can do it. I promise you. I know you're busy. I know you got kids. I know you got work. Maybe even before you go in the car, this is what I would do. Park in your driveway. Maybe not in your driveway so your wife doesn't think you're creepy, but park in your driveway. And like put a timer on your phone. Do not look at it. Set it down. Close your eyes and think about all the excuses you tell yourself for 20 minutes and be super honest with yourself. I bet you're going to leave that car a different person. I bet you're going to be like, because once you stare it in the face, once you're like, okay, that's the actual truth. It's very hard not to change. It's very, very, very hard. It's very hard to keep making those excuses when you know they're lies, but we don't look at them like that. We don't look at them like we're lying. We're liars. You are. Right? And I made an episode on this before. This one's different a little bit, but like we just cover them up as the word excuse, and then we laugh it off. Like, yeah, I know I just make a lot of excuses, but no, they're lies. They're literally lies. They're not true. And if you think they're true, challenge yourself because they might be legitimate excuses. There are such things. I just want to say there are such things as like things that are more legitimized excuses. Like I have a torn ACL. I can't do legs. Legitimate excuse. So there are things, but you got to be really, really, really honest. You got to sit down in the car for freaking 20 minutes and you need to go through. And the thing is, all the stuff that you end up actually discovering in that car or wherever you do your little 20-minute discovery time, don't just be like, oh, I'm a shitty person and like, wow, I didn't even realize that I've been making all these excuses and it's BS, and then leave feeling bad and then do nothing. That's not what I'm saying. You need to sit there and start taking action. Maybe write down 3 things when you leave the car of what you could do. Like, all right, I've been making an excuse about to go in the gym. I'm actually gonna go 3 days a week for 45 minutes at this time, really specific. You know what? I haven't been spending much time with my spouse. We're gonna go on a date night every Friday from 5 to 7, and I'm gonna let her pick, then I'll pick, then she picks. There you go. Actionable steps. 3rd thing, I'm really bad about eating. I never bring my food with me, so I end up getting 7-Eleven or Carl's Jr.'s. So you know what? I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna at least bring 1 healthy meal with me to work every day, Monday through Friday. Boom. There you go. Action. They have time to them. They have tangible things you can actually do. And now you don't have to feel bad about those excuses because you are taking action. You're changing them. You're not going to be a guy or gal that lives with these excuses and lets them run your life. And then when you're, 60, 70 years old, you're like, wow, I didn't really do anything. And I just kind of made a bunch of excuses my whole life. Because I've had conversations with people that are that age that say that. Pretty terrible feeling. So, sorry, this podcast is a little more harsh. Definitely hope it hits somewhere home with you. And if you guys do these action steps, hit me up. DM me privately on Instagram or Facebook. I would love to chat with you and have a conversation. I want to see how this impacted your life. I want to see if my advice is actually making a difference. So that is an ask of you, but the biggest ask, I think, too, is just sharing this episode, guys. If you feel like this episode was helpful, leaving a 5-star review would be awesome. But definitely sharing the podcast because we don't run any ads. And that's how we grow. That's how podcasts grow. Word of mouth. I'm very passionate about what I do. If you can't tell, I want to help you guys. No episode I ever do is to attack anybody at all. Some of them might be a little controversial or a little harsh, but that's just how I coach. I want people to just face reality so you can start making changes, because I know if you make those changes, you will be a healthier, happy, better version of yourself and everybody you surround and everybody you interact with. And that is my ultimate goal. And that's why I started Pursuit, because I know when people get healthier, both physically and mentally, they do so much better in life. So that's my ultimate goal. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I'll talk to you guys next time.